What's up guys, this is Catalyst and welcome to the third part of our Prince of Persia Sands of Time any percent tutorial by Toka and me. In this part of the tutorial series we're finally gonna be talking about zipping, the zipping glitch, very famous one that's in the entire Sands trilogy in the any percent categories. First off, I'm gonna be explaining what the zip actually is, then we're gonna look at how to zip and what little things influence the zip itself. Then we're gonna discuss fast slow rewind. Then we're gonna look at action zips, and I'm gonna show you a couple of examples. Alright, without further ado, let's get straight into it. Before I get into explaining all the details about this glitch and how it actually works, what even is a zip? Well, check out this quick example. Zipping is a glitch that allows you to accelerate your previous actions and use them to fly through the air, ignore collision, hit triggers midair. Basically what you just saw. Now let's get a little bit under the hood of this. How does this even work? The rewind system in this game has its own memory, and the memory is allocated to a certain number of actions, okay? So for example, you can get I don't know, 2 sword slashes in there, and then 5 steps, and then this entire running thing is just one action. There is no reallocation for this memory. That means it can actually be overflowed. Now, what happens after that is not that clear, but basically the game just flips out, starts running wild on the entire memory, checks other stuff that it shouldn't be checking, and what you just saw a couple of moments ago happens. Even though this explanation sounds like it might not be consistent because the game is checking different parts of the memory every time you zip, zipping in itself actually is 100% consistent. So zipping is pretty much used throughout the entire run. It's the fastest way of moving. You can skip entire areas by zipping through them and hitting the right triggers. And now we're actually gonna look at how to do this and look at all the details that we need to pay attention to if we wanna zip. Right, so as I said before, overflowing the memory can be done by a certain amount of actions. It doesn't matter how long these actions are. As I said, running like this is just one action. So the most basic way of overflowing the rewind memory is by doing keyboard steps, like this. Each individual step is actually counted as one action. There need to be 22 steps done to overflow the memory. For 100% consistency, it is better to actually space them out like this. Now there are better ways to overflow the memory with that are faster and they have the same consistency, but we're gonna get into them a little bit later. Now if you overflow the memory like this and start rewinding, first off you're just gonna see the individual steps. Gonna see all 22 of them. After all the 22 steps are done, that's the point where the memory is overflowed. The actions that were done before those 22 steps are gonna get accelerated. That means if I keep on running and then do the steps, then rewind, I'm gonna actually zip this running animation. Now the more common way of doing zips is actually inputting a consistent action right in front of them. That means, for example, a sword slash, or a dagger stab, or a roll. Now why do these things work as zips? Well, if I slash my sword, you can see the prints doing kind of a forward motion, the same with the dagger stab, and this is basically the motion that gets zipped and accelerated. All the different actions vary in speed and mainly in distance, so for different areas of the game we're going to be using different sets of actions. What determines the distance that a single individual action while zipped can cover is the size of the step the prince makes and also the speed of the animation. Let me show you a quick example. A parry is an action in which prince doesn't do such big of a step, right? And it's a very slow action as well. Dagger step, or a dagger in short, is a pretty fast action, and the step that Prince makes is a lot bigger than while parrying. Thus, while being zipped, dagger covers a lot more distance than a parry will. Now, we need to add one more variable to the zips, and that is fast and slow rewind. What even is a fast and slow rewind? Well, if you just do some actions and then you rewind normally by holding R, or the rewind key on your controller, you can see how slow the rewind is, right? It takes forever. Well, there's a way to make this faster, and that is, if you do some actions, it doesn't matter, and then you rewind and hold a directioner key, most likely it's gonna be a W, you're gonna get a fast rewind. Look at how much faster that is. Now, what does this do with zips? Well, it approximately halves the distance of every zip that you do. You can see a quick example. The first dagger is gonna be slow rewound, and the second one is gonna be fast rewound. Now I wanna touch the other methods of actually overflowing the memory. Now for you controller users, you can use the controller as well. You don't need 22 steps, you only need 16. But getting a precise forwards movement is very hard on controller. I highly advise you not to use controller to zip. Even if you're a controller user, just use the keyboard or the mouse. Now, what do I mean by the mouse? Well, if you've watched the first part of our tutorial series, which was made by Toka, he told you to bind forwards movement, mouse wheel up, backward movement to mouse wheel down. And this is the sole reason why. By doing one single scroll, you can make one simple step. Boom, like this. This is pretty much the same as tapping W. It's the same kind of step. Except you can never spam W as fast as you can scroll the wheel. This is me spamming W as much as possible. This is me just scrolling the wheel. You saw all these actions, it doesn't even look like steps anymore because it's that fast. Well, guess what? It still counts as a step if you don't scroll too fast. We're gonna get into that later. Now, this is the single fastest way to overflow the memory. Scroll the wheel. Like this. All these tiny steps are done super fast. Now, the problem with using mouse wheel is that you do a lot of steps. And that means the overflow happens and there are still steps left. That means you're gonna zip the step animation. That means you're gonna move forward a little bit and your zip is not gonna be precise anymore. Well, that's the way around that. You saw me move forwards before the dagger animation was actually zipped. Now, the simple way that we can fix this is to use the so-called walk wheel. Now, what does that mean? Well, there is a walk key on your keyboard. It's by default bound to shift, and if you hold shift and then move to any direction, you're just gonna be walking like this. If you hold the walk key and then scroll the wheel, but you wanna scroll a lot slower, we'll get into it, don't worry. If you scroll the wheel, you can see me doing super mini steps, like it's not even visible. If you were to zip these little steps down with the walk wheel, not much is gonna happen because Prince is almost stationary. There's not much really movement going on, right? But they're still counted as an action. Now, the big difference with walk wheel from normal mouse wheel scrolling is the fact that you need to scroll a bit slower. Otherwise, you're just gonna get one singular action of a walk and you're not gonna overflow the memory. That means that overflowing the memory just by walk wheel is actually slower than scrolling normally. So the fastest way to overflow the memory while being consistent as well and not overstepping the zip too much is to input your actions, then do the walk wheel for a little bit, and the rest of the overflow do with just normal scrolling without the walk key. It's gonna look something like this. That was very fast. That was a lot faster than overflowing the memory with keyboard steps, while I also didn't move before the dagger step at all. And once you get the hang of it and can do this pretty well, pretty easily, you don't really have to think about zipping anymore. You just do it by heart. Then what you can start doing is actually fast rewinding the overflow. And then after the overflow happens, if you need to fast rewind, just keep on fast rewinding. And if you need for the setup to slow rewind, you start slow rewinding. That is the single fastest way to actually zip in this game. The last thing that I need to talk about is what determines the direction the zip is going to go into. Generally, the last direction that you're facing before the overflow in the rewind happens is going to be the final direction of the zip. What do I mean by that? Well, examples will speak for themselves. Now here you saw me do a lot of steps in a lot of different places. You can see all those steps are being inputted into the memory right now. But this is the final step, or the first step that I did. The zipped actions are gonna go in that direction. Let's check another example. Here I'm gonna input the actions that I want to zip in one direction and do walk wheel and steps in the other direction. This is where the overflow happens. Camera change, but you can see the actions are going in the same direction as the overflow. One last thing I feel like that needs to be mentioned in this general zipping video before we get into the routes and into all the setups is how vertical zips work. Now, what is a vertical zip? Well, it's very simple. You just zip jump animation to get higher. Well, normally if you're falling from a very big height, you're gonna take fall damage. Now, this is a thing that we need to consider with vertical zips. When doing a jump zip, you want to make sure your camera is fully zoomed in, okay? You see, if I jump here, nothing happens with the camera. If I close in and then jump, you see the camera pan to the top and back down. We're gonna be using this camera movement as a visual cue to help us stop the rewind at the right place. Why do we have to stop the rewind at the right place? Well, if you rewind a jump zip for too long, you're gonna actually take fall damage from it and just die. That means you need to cancel the zip a little bit earlier, and that way you don't take fall damage, because you cancel it in the upwards animation, not in the fall down animation. So a badly executed jump zip would look something like this. So if you die from a jump zip, it means you held the rewind for too long. You see, the camera movement happened, and I was still rewinding and I died. This is how a well-executed jump zip should look like. I'm gonna be canceling the rewind as soon as I see the camera movement while rewinding. And you see me survive. Now, last couple of tips I want to give you guys. Before you input your actions for your zips, make sure you stop for a little bit. A lot of the new guys don't do it and then by accident zip like the running animation or whatever other action they did before that. So make sure you stop. The bad way of doing it would be like running to a certain place, then doing a parry, and then you do the zip. And then by accident, like, zip this action as well and go to oblivion. You do not want to do that. Every time you come in for a zip, you want to stop by, make sure your direction is alright, and then you do the zip. You're gonna be seeing the camera move. That's 1 dagger step, 2 dagger step, and then there's this huge time window where you have the option to cancel the zip to not get any other action in. Another problem a lot of beginners have is how much do they have to scroll? Now, that is a thing that you need to test out. I usually know that this would be enough for a zip. It's because I've done many thousands, maybe 10,000 of zips. So I know when a zip is gonna happen and when it's not. And even then, sometimes I fail and actually don't overflow the memory. You just wanna try it out, test it for yourself, see whatever works for you, what suits you. It's another reason why the input display is on the screen, so you can actually check that. It shows the amount of scrolls that I actually get. By that I mean one of the numbers is that one little step, that one little scroll that you get on your mouse. You're gonna be able to copy that from our tutorials. You're gonna see it from both me and Toka. One last thing that a lot of newbies do is that they scroll their mouse wheel too fast. Thus they end up with getting a singular action like this. You know, they like start running and then whatever. You wanna make sure that your scrolling looks like this. You can see the pace on the input mapper, and you can see how the prince reacts to the scrolls. You don't want to be scrolling too fast, you don't have to. The same thing applies for the walk wheel. If I scroll too fast for a walk wheel, it's gonna look like this. You know, Prince does these little like hops. You can see him doing those steps. This won't be very good. You want to slow down if you see that happening a lot. You want to be moving like this with a walk wheel. This should be all of the stuff that I have to say about zipping. I hope this video covered all of the questions and gave you answers to all of your questions that you might have. If you still got any left, don't hesitate. Use the comment section below or contact me or Tokaloney1 on Discord. In the next part of this tutorial series, I'm going to be picking up where I left off the last part, which is after getting the dagger and getting into the first fight of the game. We're gonna be doing the first couple of zips, so you guys should definitely be looking forward to it. But for now, this is Kara signing off.